Have you ever wished you could redo one single decision and change everything that came after it? Have you ever wondered whether destiny is fixed or whether your smallest choices rewrite the whole road? Welcome back to the channel. Today we are stepping into a long, dramatic rebirth story, but we are not watching it like gossip. We are going to use it as a mirror for real life. Because the most interesting part is not the fancy house or the betrayal or the escape plan. The most interesting part is the inner turning point where a person stops living on autopilot, stops begging for love that hurts, and starts choosing wisdom, compassion, practice, and cause and effect. The first main point is this: a second chance does not automatically save you. If your mind stays the same, you will rebuild the same prison in a different room. Rebirth is not magic. Rebirth is awareness. The second main point is this: you do not escape your fate by running only with your feet. You escape by changing the causes you keep planting. When the causes change, the results change. That is karma in the simplest, most practical sense. Now let me tell you the story in a way that feels like you are sitting beside me, late night, listening, watching the scenes unfold, but also feeling your own life reflected in it. Her name is Elara. In her first life, Elara believed love was something you earn by being good enough. She believed patience could soften cruelty. She believed loyalty could win respect. She believed if she endured quietly, life would eventually reward her. That belief was not born from stupidity. It was born from a heart that wanted peace so badly it confused endurance with virtue. Elara married into a powerful household. On the surface, it looked like success, wealth, status, servants, a grand estate that made ordinary people hold their breath. But inside that beauty lived a cold structure, like a palace built around invisible rules. Speak softly, smile often, never embarrass the family, never ask for too much, never show anger, never show weakness, and most of all, never forget that your place can be taken. At first, Elara tried to adapt. She woke early. She learned the routines. She memorized the preferences of the people who mattered. She became polite in a way that was almost invisible. She thought invisibility would keep her safe. Her husband, Lord Kale, was charming in public. He spoke gently at banquets. He smiled with just enough warmth to make people admire him. He offered his arm to Elara with perfect etiquette. Anyone watching would assume she was cherished. But when the doors closed, Kale treated her like a piece of furniture that should never squeak. He spoke to her as if her feelings were inconvenient noise. When he was pleased, he was distant but calm. When he was irritated, he was sharp, not always loud. Sometimes the cruelty was quiet, delivered through neglect, through humiliation disguised as jokes, through promises that weren't ever kept. Elara told herself this is normal. Powerful men have many pressures. If I serve the household well, he will appreciate me. She kept hoping that love was hidden inside his coldness, waiting to be revealed as she proved her worth. That is the first kind of prison, the prison of bargaining. The mind says if I do enough, the pain will stop. But pain that depends on someone else changing is unstable. It keeps you anxious. It keeps you performing. It keeps you small. Elara had one person who saw the truth clearly: her maid, Sira. Sira was not just a servant. She was a quiet friend, the kind of person who knows when to speak and when to sit beside you without words. Sira had sharp eyes. She watched how people moved. She could read a room the way sailors read weather. She knew that a smile can be a knife and a compliment can be a cage. Sira used to whisper to Elara at night, when the house finally slept, "My lady, kindness is beautiful. But do not confuse kindness with surrender. My heart can be gentle and still be firm. Elara would listen, but she did not know how to be firm. Firmness felt like danger. In her mind, firmness was the thing that makes people leave you. She feared abandonment more than suffering, so she stayed. Then the betrayal happened in the way betrayals often happen, not in one dramatic moment, but in many small confirmations. First, Elara noticed changes in the household. A new perfume drifting through corridors, servants whispering and then falling silent when she arrived, gifts being delivered but not to her, invitations to gatherings where she was suddenly unnecessary. Then one evening, Elara walked into a side hall and saw Kale speaking intimately to another woman, Lady Vianne, someone from a high-ranking family. Their faces were close. Their laughter was private. Kale did not notice Elara at first. When he did not look guilty. He looked annoyed, as if she had interrupted something she had no right to interrupt. That look was a blade, not because of the affair alone, but because it revealed his view of her. She was not a partner. She was a placeholder. Elara returned to her room shaking. She wanted to scream, but years of training had taught her that screaming makes you look unstable and instability gets punished. She wanted to demand answers, but she feared the answers, because if he admitted he did not love her, then what did her endurance mean? What did her sacrifices mean? What did her whole life mean? This is the second kind of prison, the prison of sunk cost. The mind says, I have invested too much to leave. But the truth is, investing more in a losing bargain does not make it win. It only deepens the loss. Sierra found Elara curled on the floor like a child who lost the world. Sierra did not scold her. She knelt, placed a warm blanket around her shoulders, and said, "We breathe first. We survive first. Then we choose." Elara whispered, "I do not know what to do." Sierra said, "You do not have to know everything. You only need to know the next right step." This is where wisdom begins, not in grand speeches, but in one small next step. Elara tried to confront Kale the next day. She spoke carefully, using the language the house approved of. She asked if there were rumors she should be aware of, if anything in the household had changed, if she had somehow disappointed him. Kale smiled, a polite public smile that did not reach his eyes. He said, "You are overly sensitive. Do not embarrass yourself with jealousy. Focus on your duties." He turned away. That dismissal did something inside Elara. It did not free her yet, but it cracked her old identity. For the first time, she saw clearly that her suffering was not a misunderstanding. It was a system, and the system benefited from her silence. Over the next months, Kale tightened the cage. He restricted her access to finances. He controlled who she could see. He used the household rules to isolate her. The goal was not only to keep her in place, but to keep her dependent. Dependence is power for the controller. Elara became physically weaker. She lost sleep. She lost appetite. Her mind spun in circles. She started blaming herself. Maybe I am not attractive enough. Maybe I am too quiet. Maybe I am too boring. Maybe if I become better, he will return. This is where karma becomes visible, not cosmic punishment, but inner cause and effect. When you respond to betrayal with self-blame, you plant a seed of shame. Shame grows into silence. Silence grows into more harm. The cycle repeats until awareness interrupts it. Then fate struck with a cruel finality in her first life. Elara became ill. The details are not important. What matters is the feeling. She realized that in this house, Her life could fade without anyone truly caring. She realized she could disappear and the household would adjust its routines and move on. In her last days, Sierra held her hand and whispered, "If you ever get another chance, do not spend it begging to be chosen. Choose yourself with wisdom. Choose a life that does not require you to shrink." Elara wanted to answer, but she was too weak. And then everything went dark. Now, here is the turning point of the entire tale. Elara opened her eyes again. Not in a spiritual temple or a quiet forest. She opened her eyes in her own bed. In the same estate, in the same life, but earlier, before the worst of it, before the cage fully closed, before her body collapsed. At first, she thought it was a dream. Then she noticed the small details, the season, the sound of the morning bell, the way her hands looked younger, the calendar that confirmed a date from years earlier. Fear rushed into her chest, then disbelief, then something else. Something sharper than fear, clarity, because if time had rewound, the universe was not giving her a second chance to perform the same script. The universe was giving her a second chance to change the causes. This is why rebirth stories hit so deeply, because they dramatize what is always true in real life. You may not rewind time, but every morning is a small rebirth. Every decision is a seed. Every reaction is a cause. Your future is grown from what you repeat. Elara sat up, breathing hard. She remembered the betrayal, the isolation, the illness, the helplessness. Her mind tried to rush into panic, but then she heard Sierra in her memory. We breathe first. We survive first. Then we choose. Elara placed her hand on her chest and slowed her breath. She did not fully understand what was happening, but she understood one thing. If she wasted this chance, she would suffer the same ending again. A soft knock came at the door. Sierra entered, younger too, eyes alert, carrying morning tea. She smiled in the familiar way, gentle and loyal. Elara stared at her, overwhelmed by love and grief at the same time. In the first life, Sierra had been the only steady warmth. Now Sierra was here again, alive, whole. Sierra asked, "My lady, are you unwell?" Elara almost said I died, but she stopped. She remembered how fragile truth can be in a house full of spies. So she said, "Sierra, close the door. Sit with me." Sierra obeyed, watching carefully. Elara said, "I need you to trust me without understanding everything yet. Can you do that?" Sierra blinked, then nodded. "Yes, my lady." Elara said, "We are leaving this house." Sierra did not gasp dramatically. She only asked one question, the question of someone practical. When Elara exhaled, she realized something important. In the first life, she had been alone inside her head. Now, she had an ally. And an ally changes destiny. They began planning quietly, not only escape routes, but inner preparation. Because leaving is not just physical. Leaving is psychological. If Elara left with the same fear, she would still be trapped, even on a new road. The cage would travel inside her. So Elara made a vow, not spoken publicly, but held like a flame. I will no longer trade my dignity for temporary peace. That vow is the seed of wholeness. But a vow alone is not enough. She needed practice. First, she practiced awareness. She started watching the house like a student watching a lesson. She observed who reported to whom. She noticed which servants were loyal and which were paid by Kale. She noticed the rhythm of guards at gates. She watched how messages moved. She studied the household finances. She listened more than she spoke. Second, she practiced restraint. In her first life, she had confronted Kale emotionally. It only gave him information and control. This time she did not show her hand. She acted normal. She smiled politely. She performed the role when needed. But inside, she stayed awake. She saved her energy for the real goal. Third, she practiced compassion, especially toward herself. This part matters. Many revenge stories turn the reborn heroine into a cold machine. But real wisdom is not becoming cruel. Real wisdom is refusing to be naive while keeping your heart human. Ilara told Sira one night, "I keep remembering how foolish I was." Sira said, "You were not foolish. You were trying to love. Love without wisdom becomes suffering. Now we bring wisdom to love." Ilara cried silently, not from weakness, but from release. She realized self-hatred was another chain. If she hated her past self, she would repeat the same pattern of abandoning herself. Compassion meant acknowledging, "I did what I could with what I knew, and now I will do differently." That compassion made her steadier. Now, the escape plan required resources. Ilara could not leave penniless. The world outside was not a fairy tale. A woman traveling without protection or money could become vulnerable. So Ilara began collecting small pieces of agency. She retrieved personal jewelry that belonged to her before marriage. She found old documents. She learned which assets were legally hers. She began setting aside funds quietly through trusted channels. Sira helped by creating diversions, by moving items without raising suspicion, by gathering information. Sira was brave, but not reckless. She understood that one mistake could bring punishment to both. Meanwhile, Kale was still Kale. He had not betrayed her yet in this timeline. At least not openly. He still wore his charming mask, but Ilara could now see the micro signs. The way he valued status more than truth. The way he spoke about people as tools. The way he smiled when someone weaker complied. The way his kindness always came with a hidden hook. In her first life, she would have interpreted his occasional warmth as proof of love. Now she saw it as strategy. This is a hard lesson in real life too. Sometimes the biggest awakening is seeing that what you called love was actually control mixed with comfort. And once you see it, you cannot unsee it. As the days passed, Ilara had moments of temptation. Sometimes Kale would be gentle. He would offer a gift. He would praise her in public. He would act like a husband should. And a part of Ilara would whisper, "Maybe this time will be different. Maybe he will change. Maybe you do not need to run." That whisper was not stupidity. That whisper was attachment to hope. Hope can be beautiful, but hope that ignores evidence becomes a trap. Ilara practiced a simple inner discipline. When hope rose, she asked, "Is this hope based on reality or based on fear of change?" She would then remember her first life ending. She would remember her body fading while the house remained cold. That memory was painful, but it was also medicine. It kept her awake. One afternoon, Lady Vianne visited the estate. In the first life, Vianne had been the symbol of betrayal, the rival. In this timeline, Vianne appeared earlier than expected, like a chess piece, moving onto the board sooner. Ilara felt her chest tighten when she saw Vianne step through the entrance. Elegant and confident, Vianne greeted Kale with a familiarity that was slightly too warm. Kale responded with the kind of attention he rarely gave Ilara. The room smelled like future pain. Sira stood behind Ilara, posture calm. Ilara could almost feel Sira thinking, "So it begins." Ilara watched the interaction carefully. She did not react outwardly. She let her face remain neutral, polite. Inside, she practiced something deeper than strategy. She practiced non-attachment. Non-attachment does not mean you do not feel. It means you do not let feelings drag you into unwise action. It means you do not cling to an image of how things should be. It means you accept the truth and move accordingly. Ilara realized something liberating. Vian was not her enemy. Vian was simply part of Kaola's pattern. The real issue was the system that treated people as replaceable. If Ilara made Vian the enemy, she would stay trapped in the same drama. She would fight for a man who did not deserve fighting for. She would lose her dignity again, only with new lines. So, she did not fight. She planned. That night, Ilara and Sira reviewed their timeline. The visit meant Kale might accelerate moves to secure alliances. That could mean restricting Ilara sooner. That could mean watching her more closely. That meant the escape needed to happen earlier. They chose a night when the household would be distracted by a formal event in the nearby city. Many guards would be sent with Kale. The estate would be quieter. Movement would be less noticed. Sira arranged a carriage through a trusted contact, someone from her past who owed her family a favor. They prepared simple clothing, practical, not expensive looking. They prepared food, water, maps, and a plan for where to go first. Ilara chose not to run toward romance or revenge. She chose to run toward safety and a new life built on practice. Where would they go? They planned to reach a coastal town where Sira had distant relatives. From there, Ilara could travel farther, perhaps to a place where her name carried less weight. She could start a small business, or invest wisely, or simply live quietly. The specifics mattered less than the principle. A life where her dignity did not depend on one man's approval. Now, here is where the story becomes a spiritual lesson. The night of the escape arrived. Ilara sat in her room, the same room that had once been a beautiful prison. She looked at the mirror and saw two faces in one. The old Ilara, who tried to earn love. The new Ilara, who chose wisdom. She felt fear. Of course, fear is natural when you step into the unknown. But she also felt something she had never felt in that house. Agency. Agency is the feeling that your life belongs to you. She whispered to herself, "I will not abandon me again." Sira entered, ready. They moved like shadows through corridors, but not with the thrill of crime, with the seriousness of survival. They walked slowly, listening, breathing. At the back gate, a guard stood. In the first life, Ilara would have panicked, perhaps run, perhaps frozen. Freeze is a trauma response. In the first life, the house trained her to freeze. This time she breathed out slowly. She remembered the lesson. We breathe first. We survive first. Then we choose. Sierra stepped forward with calm confidence and spoke to the guard in a steady voice, delivering a message that implied official errands. The guard hesitated. Sierra offered a small token, not too much, just enough to make the guard decide it was easier to look away than to question. The guard looked away. Ilara and Sierra passed through. The night air hit Ilara like freedom, cold, sharp, alive. She felt tears rise, not because she was weak, but because her nervous system recognized the difference between inside and outside. Inside had been controlled air. Outside was wild air. They reached the carriage. The driver nodded. No long conversation. That is how real escapes work. Quiet, efficient, no unnecessary drama. As the carriage rolled away, Ilara looked back at the estate. The building stood tall, indifferent. It had taken her first life. It would have taken her second if she had stayed unconscious. But now she was leaving. Now, a rebirth story is never only about leaving. It is about what happens after leaving. Because the real test begins when there is no familiar cage to blame. In the outside world, you face yourself. On the road, Ilara had nightmares, not about Kale only, but about her own helplessness. Trauma lives in the body. Even when you leave physically, the body remembers. She would wake up breathing fast. Sira would hand her water and say, "Look at me. We are here. We are safe enough." Ilara would do what she practiced. She would orient to the present. She would feel the carriage seat. She would listen to the wheels. She would breathe. She would remind herself, the past is not happening now. This is healing in motion. In the coastal town, Sira introduced Ilara to relatives who were kind but cautious. People are not automatically trustworthy just because you need them to be. Wisdom includes discernment. Ilara did not reveal her full identity immediately. She used a simpler name. She stayed humble. She offered payment for help. This is another spiritual lesson. Pride can be another cage. When you cling to status, you remain tied to the system you escaped. Ilara chose humility because humility is flexible. Flexible people survive and heal faster. Days turned into weeks. Ilara learned new skills. She learned how to bargain in markets. She learned how to manage money directly. She learned how to read people without seeking approval. She learned how to say no without apologizing endlessly. Sira also changed. In the estate, Sira had been a helper in someone else's life. Outside, Sira was a full person. She laughed more. She spoke more. She made choices. Sometimes she disagreed with Ilara. That disagreement was healthy. It meant they were no longer trapped in rigid roles. Their friendship deepened into a kind of sisterhood built on shared survival. But the past did not vanish. Kale eventually discovered Ilara was gone. He responded as controlling people often do, not with grief, but with rage that losing control. He sent people to search. He spread rumors that she was unstable, that she stole, that she betrayed him. This is a classic tactic. If you cannot control someone, control the story about them. Ilara heard the rumors through whispers in town. For a moment, shame rose. The old fear returned. What will people think? Will they believe him? Then Ilara practiced wisdom. She remembered that reputation is important, but self-respect is more important. She could not spend her new life chasing the approval of strangers. That would recreate the old cage. She chose to live quietly, unbuild real trust through consistent behavior. Over time, truth speaks louder than rumors, at least among people who matter. This is also karma. Your repeated actions become your identity, not your past, not others' accusations, but your consistent present choices. Ilara began helping women in small ways, not dramatic heroic scenes, but practical kindness. She offered work. She shared knowledge. She listened without judgment. She understood what it felt like to be trapped. Compassion grew naturally from her pain. This is one of the most beautiful transformations. When someone heals wisely, they often become more compassionate, not more bitter. Bitterness is suffering that got stuck. Compassion is suffering that got understood. Ilara also had moments of anger. Clean anger. Anger at the system that trained her to be silent. Anger at the years stolen. Anger at Kale. Anger at herself. Instead of suppressing anger, she used it as fuel for practice. She would channel it into boundaries, into learning, into building a life that could not be easily controlled again. One day, a messenger arrived. A letter, sealed with the mark of Kale's household. Elara held it and felt her hand shake. The old part of her wanted to open it immediately, like craving. The old part wanted to know what he said, like addiction to pain. The new part of her paused. She asked herself, what is the cause and effect here? If I open this, what happens in my nervous system? If I engage, what am I feeding? She handed the letter to Sira and said, read it first. Tell me if it contains anything useful. If it is only poison, we burn it. Sira nodded. She read it. Her expression stayed calm, but her eyes hardened slightly. It is poison, she said. He offers you forgiveness as if you did wrong. He demands you return. He threatens consequences. Elara laughed softly, not with joy, but with clarity. Forgiveness, the audacity. She felt fear flicker, but it did not take over. She felt compassion for her old self who would have believed such words. She said, burn it. Sira burned it. That small scene is the whole spiritual path in miniature. A trigger arrives. The old pattern wants to react. Awareness pauses. Wisdom sees the cause and effect. Compassion protects the heart. A new choice is made. Destiny shifts. Over time, Kayles' searches faded, not because he became kind, but because he moved on to new control projects. That is the truth of many controlling people. They do not mourn what they lose. They replace it. Elara felt a strange relief, not because she was happy about it, but because it confirmed what she already knew. She was never the point. Control was the point, and she had removed herself from being the object of it. Now, what about love? Many rebirth stories turned into romance quickly, but this story, the one we are telling today, is about a deeper romance, the romance of becoming whole. Elara met kind people. Some men were respectful, some women were wise. She could have entered a new relationship, but she did not rush, because she understood a crucial lesson. If you do not heal the wound, you will choose a new person to play the old role. So, Elara practiced being alone without being abandoned. She built friendships. She built routines. She built purpose. She built inner safety. And from that wholeness, she could choose love later without clinging. This is the difference between love and attachment. Attachment says I need you to be okay. Love says I choose you from fullness. Attachment makes a cage. Love makes a path. Elara also practiced forgiveness in a mature way, not forgiving Kale to excuse him, but forgiving to release the chain inside herself. Forgiveness is not letting someone back in. Forgiveness is refusing to keep drinking poison because someone else poured it. She would sit near the sea at dawn and watch waves. The sea taught her impermanence. Waves rise and fall. Pain rises and falls. Thoughts rise and fall. If you do not cling, you survive the wave. She would sometimes whisper, may I be free? May I be wise? May I be compassionate? May I not repeat the same causes that create suffering? That prayer was not magic. It was intention. Intention is the seed of karma. Years passed. Elara became known in town as someone steady. Not perfect, but steady. She was fair in business. She was kind in community. She was clear in boundaries. She did not tolerate disrespect. People sensed it. Predators sense when you are no longer easy to control. Sira also flourished. She saved money. She learned to read and write better. She dreamed about opening a small shop. Elara supported her, because compassion is not only warmth. Compassion is empowerment. It helps others build agency. One evening, a young woman arrived in town, shaking, with a suitcase and fear in her eyes. She had run from a household where she was treated like property. She asked Elara for work. Elara looked at her and recognized the old self. the fear, the hope, the shame. Alara offered her a place to sleep and work, but she also offered something deeper. She said, "You do not owe anyone your life. You owe yourself wisdom. You owe yourself compassion. You can start again." The young woman cried. Alara realized that her second life was not only for her, it was for the ripple. When one person breaks a cycle, the break spreads outward. This is how personal awakening becomes collective healing. Now let me bring the story home to you, because this is where the real value is. Most of us do not wake up in our old bed with time rewound, but we do wake up each morning with a small window where we can choose differently. And the biggest betrayals in life are not always affairs. Sometimes the betrayal is how often we abandon ourselves, how often we stay silent to keep peace, how often we shrink to be chosen, how often we accept crumbs and call it love. This story asks a simple question. If you had a second life, what would you stop doing immediately? Maybe you would stop chasing approval. Maybe you would stop returning to people who disrespect you. Maybe you would stop numbing your pain with distractions. Maybe you would start speaking your truth. Maybe you would start practicing boundaries. Maybe you would start building skills that give you freedom. The spiritual core is this: destiny is built from causes. Causes are built from daily choices. Daily choices are guided by awareness. Awareness is trained by practice. Practice becomes wisdom. Wisdom becomes compassion. Compassion keeps you human while you become free. I have seen versions of Alara on Sira in real life, not in castles, but in ordinary homes. A person who stays for years because they believe love means endurance. Then one day, not even a dramatic day, just a day where something inside finally says enough. They start saving quietly. They build support. They make a plan. They leave. And the most beautiful part is not the leaving. The most beautiful part is how they learn to trust themselves again. At first, they shake. They doubt. They miss the familiar even when it was painful. That is normal. The nervous system confuses familiar with safe. So healing includes retraining the body to recognize real safety. Over time, the shaking stops. The breath deepens. The eyes look forward. Life becomes theirs again. That is what I hope this story gives you. Not fantasy revenge. Real courage. Real wisdom. Real compassion. Real practice. Thank you for being here with me. Now, I want to hear from you. Have you ever had a moment where you realized you were living in a pattern that kept hurting you? What was the moment that woke you up? And what small choice helped you change the direction? If you felt something in this story, subscribe to the channel for more long-form narratives that turn dramatic plots into practical spiritual lessons. Like the video if it helped you reflect on your own life with more clarity and kindness. And if you want to support the channel and keep these deeper stories coming, you can join the membership and be part of building this space.